François-Simon Louvet, Moral Pain, Conscious Remorse, and Learning Through Suffering. The Testimony of the Spirit. François-Simon Louvet, presented in the second part of Heaven and Hell, clearly reveals how spiritual suffering can arise from conscious remorse when lucidity expands and consciousness begins to perceive, without filters, the moral consequences of choices made in life. François-Simon Louvet manifests in a state of intense suffering, but with full mental clarity. He understands that he continues to exist, remembers his journey, and recognizes that his current condition is directly linked to how he conducted his life. Unlike confused or rebellious spirits, there is awakened consciousness here, albeit painful. The suffering does not come from ignorance, but from late understanding. Modern depth psychology helps to understand this state. When consciousness clearly recognizes the error but has not yet found internal means to reframe and transform it, remorse sets in. Remorse is different from superficial guilt. It arises from direct contact with the real impact of one's own actions. On the spiritual plane where empathy expands, this contact becomes more intense. Spiritism clarifies that the suffering of François-Simon Louvet is not an imposed punishment, but a natural effect of the law of cause and effect. Consciousness begins to feel what it has caused, not as revenge, but as learning. This suffering is proportional to the degree of clarity achieved. The clearer the consciousness, the deeper the perception of one's own responsibilities. Modern science reinforces this logic by showing that processes of moral maturation involve confronting real consequences. In psychology, ethical development goes through the ability to recognize the harm caused and take responsibility for it. Suffering, in this context, has a pedagogical function. It signals the need for change and inner reorganization. Another important point of the testimony is the absence of denial. François-Simon Louvet does not try to justify his actions or shift blame. He acknowledges his mistakes and accepts that he needs to learn from them. This stance, although painful, is fundamental for spiritual progress. The suffering that arises from inner honesty is what most quickly transforms into growth. Spiritism teaches that this state is not definitive. As repentance turns into a sincere desire for repair and a future effort to act differently, consciousness begins to free itself. Suffering persists only while there are still lessons to be assimilated. There is no eternal condemnation, only educational processes at different paces. This testimony also invites us to reflect on the value of repentance in life. Acknowledging mistakes, repairing when possible, and changing our posture while we are still in the physical body greatly softens future processes. What is not worked on now tends to be faced later with greater intensity. François-Simon Louvet teaches us that spiritual justice does not humiliate but clarifies. Suffering does not destroy, but points the way. When consciousness accepts to learn, even through pain, it has already begun its liberation. Reflecting on this account is an invitation to take responsibility in the present. Living with moral attention, empathy, and a willingness to correct one's course is a profound way to care for the future of one's own conscience. Learning done at the right time is always lighter. If this testimony has helped you reflect on remorse, responsibility, and inner transformation, please like, share, and leave your comment. Your participation helps this message reach more people.